President not?
Doesn't fit your narrative.
Why is President?
Report on that man being killed.
Why has President
because
Trump?
You don't care about him because it doesn't fit your false narrative.
Why has President Trump?
What happened to me is the same thing that always happened to me. I happen to be in favor of truth and justice.
Really?
And you people are in favor of a phony political narrative.
Really? You know what, Rudy? I'm sorry,
and
but
the interview is over as far as I'm
you
concerned.
sound completely barking mad. Do you know that?
No, I don't.
This is Mongolian Mindset, and today we're going to be typing Rudy Giuliani. We use Linda Barrens Temperament and Interaction styles combined with cognitive functions. We will find his personality type. Personality database over there has him as a ENTJ. Okay, we'll see what he really is. These are the metrics we use. We'll break them down as we see them in real time in the videos. But let's get into it. We're gonna do the one with PPD. And Rudy Giuliani.
Well, really any opposition to the regime. Secondly, any law can be misused. You can misuse a minor misdemeanor and weaponize it for filing false entries in your books. So you're always subject to that. You're subject. The laws are there. It's like saying the Soviet Union had a constitution.
All right, so that's a TE comparison there. TE-FI. So TE and FI on the axis. So whenever we hit TE, we're going to hit FI.
The Red China has a constitution with more right.
So he's doing a comparison here, TE comparison.
Right. Considerably more. But it doesn't mean anything. So I don't know that the government, even being excessive in pursuing bad guys, and maybe even being a little bit overzealous in doing that, I don't think that leads to what is now typical of a totalitarian regime, which is the ruling party using the criminal process to go after the opposition party.
So he just broke that down. That was progression there, and systematic. So systematic people, they talk about systems, laws, procedures, methodologies, that type of thing. They're going to be talking about the best way to do something, or they're going to be using systems or methods or whatever to get more control of their life. That was a progression statement as he was breaking it down right there. So progression is more journey focused. Outcome is the end product, and that's a couple of metrics there. When we get enough of them, 5 points of them, we'll go ahead and start knocking them down and telling you guys what types we eliminated and why we eliminated those types.
I think that's a totally different thing, and I think it developed in a different way. I think it developed because of the long-term influence of the Communist Party.
All right, look at Rudy Giuliani's eyes right here. Okay, he's starting to do that a lot. I don't know what you guys know, but INTJs usually have that death stare, and Rudy Giuliani's eyes are starting to pop like that. I mean, take a look at that. And he's talking about what some lead there, so I'm going to say that's NI. He's talking about the long-term things. So I'm going to say that's NI and SE are attached to the NI, so that'd be 1 point for that as well.
On the Democratic Party. And I think they've basically taken over. I think this is a well-thought-out plot.
You see his eyes? He keep lighting
goes
up.
Back at least 20 or 30 years to destroy our government. And I think that's why Soros is funding it. Why does Soros pay for...
He's name-dropping Soros. Come on.
40 or 50 DAs all over the country to basically destroy these cities. Because Soros wants our government to fall. He wants a one-world government. He probably wants to run the one-world government.
Talking about what other people want, I can say that's NE. SI, but we'll put 1 point down for NE.
Or at least be the head of the Department of the Treasury, so he can steal from it. And so, no, I don't regret the RICO statute. I think the RICO statute would be excellent to use, for example, against the Biden crime family. It'd be
talking about the best way to use something there that'd be systematic. There, talking about the RICO statute, Biden.
Exactly. The whole idea of the Racketeering Act is you just can't put them in jail. You got to take their property away. Because if you just keep putting the mafia in jail, some other mafia guy comes along and takes over the $5 billion enterprise and it becomes $6 billion. And it was a recognition by Professor Blakey, who I knew very, very well, that the only way we're going to crush the mafia is to take their empire away. For example, one of the cases that isn't mentioned that I did was I took the
Look at Rudy.
Teamsters Union away from the mob,
I'm gonna try to catch him.
which meant taking Las Vegas away from the mob, because they controlled Las Vegas to the Central States Pension Fund of the Teamsters Union. You thought it was
You thought that's TE, referencing what other people think. TE.
Central States Pension Fund money. It was the mafia money that was being laundered for 30 years. So I don't regret it.
He looks so uncomfortable around Rudy. Cause Rudy's something else, man. Rudy is really something else.
What I do regret is the wrong people getting in government and then being able to use any of these laws.
But we can't. But we know the wrong people are eventually going to be in power, right? So, certain policies could work for good people, because a good person may not abuse the power that they have, but you have to be thinking about policies to
We have previously typed Patrick Bet-David, ENTJ. So,
create that an evil guy doesn't.
so Patrick Bet-David's talking about creating a system for the future that would actually not allow people to take advantage of it.
Come and say, I want to abuse my power. So, I understand what you're saying. It was built for the good guy to, find and catch the bad guy. But what if the bad guy is now the leader?
So he just said a what if statement there. That's usually attached to abstraction. That's from Patrick Bet-David, but ENTJs are abstract.
Going after the good guy. So what could we have done differently? The only reason I'm asking this question is because we got now this FedNow app coming out. We got CBDC coming out. We got this restrict.
There's a whole bunch of SE from PP. We got this, we got this, we got that.
Coming out that they're saying, we're going to take down TikTok. And Charlie Kirk made a very good point the other day. The fact that they're using this.
Reference Charlie Coin, that'd be TE from Patrick.
To say they want to silence Dave Rubin. Dave, we're sorry. We don't like the message you got. We got to go after him. So only thing I'm asking is, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't work in the New York, district as an attorney. You've been around the block. For the next people, the next Giuliani, the next guy that's going to have that kind of a power, when they're writing these acts up, should they do it or don't even do it? Don't even go there. But if they do it, how do you write it to make sure a bad guy cannot weaponize it?
Bad guys can weaponize anything. They can weaponize the simplest law or a complex law. And you can't deprive yourself of laws that are going to protect you against murderers, rapists, terrorists. You can't pass a law that can't be...
You can't do this, you can't do that. That's SE. Rudy's coming off direct. So there's two metrics here, direct versus informative. Direct people are specific, concise, and to the point. They mean what they say. They choose their role in the conversation. Informative people are extra wordy, passive, just beating around the bushes, kind of just out there. They're not choosing their role in the conversation. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hit him for direct. Okay, with him being direct, okay, with Rudy being direct, that eliminates 8 types. That eliminates all the informative types. Okay, Rudy is direct. Okay. And with that said, that eliminates. Let's go to the chart here. That eliminates 8 other types. That's all the informative types are gone. That means your ESFJ, your ESFP, ENTP, ENFP, your ISFP, ISFJ, INTP, and INFP gone. Because Rudy is direct. Okay, he's specific, concise, to the point. He's choosing his role in the conversation.
Misused by a bad guy if a bad guy gets into power. This is not a question of the laws that we passed. It's a question of the people that we voted for. Like the people of Chicago. There's got to be something wrong with them voting for the person they voted for.
Lori Lightfoot.
What's the other?
They got a new one.
There's got to be something wrong with them. They're brainwashed. This is a development that happened within politics rather than within the legal system.
So he's talking about the system here. So we're going to hit him for systematic.
Because even if we didn't have these laws, and most of these laws weren't even used by the Democrats in weaponizing the Justice Department. They're much simpler laws that they used, or they make things up.
They do this, they do that. That's SE. He's not talking from a first-person perspective.
Indictment of Trump is a non-existent indictment. It's null and void. It doesn't charge a crime. It charges a crime without explaining the crime, which would lead to the dismissal of any other indictment. The judge should have
So he just went through the process of that. So that's progression, process, progression of movement. That's all one journey. Okay.
Smith should have thrown it out as null and void. I don't know why his
Look at Judy. I'm telling you, his
lawyers didn't
eyes.
get up and
They just keep going back to
plead
it.
If I represented him, he never would have pled to that indictment. I would have said, this is not an indictment. It says
Look at
here,
trying to
this
catch
was
him.
in pursuance of a crime. What would you like me to do? Guess which one of the 1,000 New York crimes it is? Would you give me a hint at least?
I mean, damn, Rudy, you do
What
it
am
so
I pleading
quick.
to? If you read the indictment, you don't know what you're pleading to. He's pleading, if you pled guilty, you wouldn't know what you pled guilty to. So what do we can't do away with indictments. What we got to do is do away with corrupt district attorneys like Alvin Bragg. I mean, that's the problem.
Dave, what do you think?
Well, let me add something to slightly defend the mayor from the time that he was in office and beforehand when he was
All right, this guy's coming off direct affiliative.
when he was dealing with the mafia and all of this stuff when these laws were put into place. You know, we used
Talking about loss, BTE or systematic. I think this guy's an STJ.
to have Democrats and Republicans that disagreed on certain issues, meaning taxation, certain things related to crime, certain things related to abortion, et cetera, et cetera. But there wasn't one party that in essence was solely existing to pretty much destroy America as we know it and become completely lawless and not know the difference between boys and girls and want neo-racism taught in the
He's talking about outcomes.
schools and
ESTJ.
not believe that jailing
ESTJ on this guy.
criminals is correct, et cetera, et cetera. We now have one party like that. So I think what's happening now, you got a guy like Alvin Bragg, who we were discussing it at dinner. The guy does not charge you with the crime if you jump the turnstile in New York City. So think what you're doing. You're doing two things when you do that. First off, you're incentivizing people for bad behavior, right? You're telling them, go ahead and jump the
Kind of
turnstile.
reminds me of Ron DeSantis a little bit there.
I'll do whatever you want. And you're also telling the law-abiding person in New York City, you're a sucker, man. You're paying your $2.50 or $2.75, whatever it is on the subway now, while these kids are just jumping over. They will not prosecute for prostitution. The craziest one that they will not prosecute for is avoiding arrest. So you are allowed to literally fight the cop as he's trying to arrest you, and you will not be penalized for that. So I think what's happened here, there's a little asymmetry. Most of us, especially if you live in a free state, a law and order state like Florida, where, by the way, we are now getting all of the good cops. You know that there were
You know. And he's talking about outcomes again. ESTJ.
thousands and thousands of incredible members of the New York Police Department who are now moving down here. DeSantis is giving them bonuses, and we're becoming stronger, and they're becoming weaker. The difference is that when you have one side that is completely unhinged related to law and reality, there is no law that you can set up that will not be abused.
Look at his eyes versus
So I'm
Rudy's.
gonna still push back.
Like, his eyes are not like
And I
that.
want both of you guys to try to rip apart my argument, and I'm very comfortable with that. Okay, so you have
You
kids.
see how Patrick David just set the stage there? That was very direct. Chose his role, very direct.
You have a
ENTJ.
family. You're doing estate planning. You're doing living trust. Okay.
You're doing this, you're doing that. That's SENI.
And you would like to pass down your wealth to your kids, but you would like
Patrick,
them to
I love
manage
you,
the
man,
wealth in a
but
responsible way. So
you gotta
can
get
go
Rudy.
to-
I didn't point out this other part of it. I'm not saying there aren't very bad laws, and that laws are passed that infringe human rights, civil rights, are too intrusive, are unwise, can actually be more easily abused. That all happens, and we shouldn't do that now or before or later. I just don't think there's the connection between that and what you're saying. I don't think Alvin Bragg exists because let's say you believe that the Patriot Act was overzealous, intruded too much into privacy, and it might very well, I might agree with you on some of that. I don't think that's the reason we are where we are today. I think independently we should fix it, and that's another problem that we have. And I think the Restrict Act, I think it would be a very bad law, and it would be a particularly bad law because our government has become more corrupt.
Going through the progression again of shit.
So it would be in the hands of corrupt people, but it shouldn't even be in the hands of honest people. And I think the way I think the inheritance tax is inherently inequitable, unfair, anti-capitalism, anti-incentives to develop wealth, anti-human nature. One of the reasons you work hard is for your family.
Here's all the TEFI there.
And then that's a contribution to everyone, because you're working hard. Your main objective is your family, but you're helping society.
Talking about objectives, TEFI. We're going here for TEFI. Rudy Giuliani, obviously, he's a previous lawyer, big time lawyer. Obviously, he's systematic in TEFI. Okay, that was pretty obvious. With that being said, that makes him 4 types here. He's either ESTJ, like that boy across the screen. Do Rudy sound like him? No. ISTJ. Okay, this is actually a perfect interview. ENTJ, does he sound like Patrick Bet David? Does he sound like Patrick? I mean, he's kind of ruthless like Patrick, but I mean, not exactly. Okay, so we're down to those 4 types because it's systematic, direct, and TEFI. Okay, we got 3 points for progression, a couple points for SE and I. So we might be wrapping this up very quickly. It's looking like he is an INTJ, but like we said, he's right across from Patrick and he's right across from an ESTJ.
Doing that, and knowing that your wealth is going to get cut in half or more, that's going to change. It's going to change that, and then people are also going to look for ways to break the law.
Talking about what people are going to do. SE some more.
These intrusive laws lead to a lot of, like, if you have taxes that are too
Look at his
high,
eyes.
People find ways to avoid it, and then people find ways to
Look at Rudy. Look at him. Rudy, you need help.
evade it. So I think, Patrick, there are two different problems that you're talking about, and I think this problem emerges from our politics, our morality or lack thereof, and I do think
Morality, that's TEFI, that's FI.
And I know it sounds like this is a conspiracy theory.
Talking about theory here, that's abstraction. That's more of an NT, abstraction theories.
But I am. It is a conspiracy. I think that China has a lot to do with it. I think China has corrupted many of these people.
China has this, China has that.
These unbelievably illegal applications of the law. If Biden isn't corrupted by China, it would be totally ridiculous. The guy got $31 million plus in the last 6 years from China, and he's taken actions for China that only can be taken by somebody that seems to favor China over the United States. He gives up an air base 400 miles from China. That's insane. In a year in which we may be in a war involving missiles and airplanes, being 400 miles from China is an unbelievable strategic advantage given away by...
Strategy is more of an NT thing. So strategy is NT. SJ is logistics, putting people in the right place at the right time. NFs is diplomacy, and SP is tactical. Okay.
By our president.
Tactical is more in the moment.
In return.
What to do in the moment.
Is it a coincidence that the man who did it, family got $31 million from China in the last 6 years? No, it's not a coincidence. You have to be ridiculous to think it's a coincidence.
Talking about what you should think. That's TE. Come on, Rudy.
He refuses to pursue China and the other cause of COVID. He refuses to. He told us that.
He refused to do this. He refused to do that. He's SE. He's talking about what people are doing all the time. He's not coming from a first person perspective. So he's SE and I. We already knew this. So that goes bye-bye ESTJ. Does he sound like that guy across the screen, the ESTJ? No. But I will tell you this. Rudy Giuliani is a Enneagram 1. And I think he's probably a 1. Shit. 1 W2. Okay? That's what Rudy Giuliani is. 1 W2. The reformer.
China really is a friend, ultimately a friend. He's never said a harsh word about China, and they're day by day they're gaining an advantage over us. If they're not already having an advantage that's going to take them to their goal of being the dominant nation on the earth by 2048. I think that they'll get there faster.
I think so too, Rudy. That's an NI prediction there in the abstraction. I believe that's actually correct, Rudy.
And if I just add one other thing, your question basically.
My big thing about the whole China situation, you interview some kid now, everybody wants to be a fucking YouTuber, TikToker, or some shit, and you interview somebody in China, they want to be engineers, doctors, and whatnot. It's gonna be hard to beat that, and not to mention there's so much inner fighting between people in the U.S. It's hard to make any type of progress when one person does something and the other person undo this. Long term, that's shit. Okay, China just continues to go up. Boy, if you were a leader of China, that would be a beautiful thing. And I think most likely they have an entj leader over there, so they're gonna play the long game over there.
Boils down to what do you do about unintended consequences? These people are trying to
He's talking about consequences. That's any
things that are going to create law and order. Good
I'm skipping him though. I'm skipping him
to do the right thing, but there are going to be bad actors. The libertarian part of me, I'm completely with.
Look like he was ahead. Now it looks like DeSantis is behind. I don't think it had anything to do with DeSantis. I think it has to do with what they did to Trump. I think if they are trying to get him nominated, the Democrats, they did. I mean, they did him a real favor. I mean, so he goes from being behind to being anywhere from 5 to 20 points ahead, 30 points ahead in many national polls. If I were DeSantis' campaign, I wouldn't look so much. I don't know there was much he could have done. So if he were appearing over the last month on shows and being interviewed, I don't think it would have changed anything. Because it's not a function of DeSantis, it's a function of Trump being, in the minds of most Republicans, even the ones that don't support him, being unfairly treated. My objective, really, and Trump's a lawyer, he's been my friend for 34 years, and I'd love to see him be reelected.
I'd love to see him. That's that far.
And the main reason is because he's already done it. And I know how difficult the presidency is. I don't know it from having done it, but I worked for Ronald Reagan.
I did this, my achievements. I worked for Ronald Reagan.
And I virtually lived in the Trump White House for 2 years as a lawyer. You never know, and I like DeSantis a lot. I appreciate him as an American. I appreciate him as a Republican. I don't think there's anything he said about him that isn't true in terms of his abilities as a governor, and maybe some advantages he would have as a candidate. But what I do know is, I know exactly how Trump will react to the most difficult job that any American president is ever going to face, which is to take our government back from, it's already been delivered over to socialism, if not totalitarianism in many respects. It's inbred within the federal government.
Look at Rudy. I'm trying to catch his eyes
The
one
deep
more
state
time.
really exists. It is much, much worse than I ever thought. And when Trump became president, I told him how bad the federal government was. He probably didn't know as much as I knew how bad it was. I was telling him a fairy tale when I was telling him that. It is much worse than I thought. It's going to take a man of tremendous courage to do it. And he's going to have to start on day one. I have no reason to believe that that DeSantis can't do that. But I've seen people, once they get into that office, not be able to do it. And honestly, nobody knows that answer. He could be a great governor, terrible president. I don't say that he would.
I want somebody like Rudy Giuliani behind me. But look at him again. We called him. He does it back and forth. If you watch the video and you pay attention to him, you'll just see how his eyes just flicker right back and forth.
Would be. If Trump isn't the nominee, I will support DeSantis. I probably will support any Republican over a Democrat. And I'll feel pretty comfortable that he has a good record as a governor, therefore he'll be a good president.
If this then that, that's actually a TI statement from Rudy there.
100% sure that he'll be able to do all the things. Trump already did it. He delivered peace. He delivered one of our most prosperous eras that we had.
He did this, SE,
He delivered the best economy
SE,
for
and there was a little
minorities
some
that they've
outcomes
ever
there.
had.
There's some outcomes.
He achieved peaceful resolution, or seemed to be, in the Middle East. I don't think there's anybody in this room that would doubt that Russia would not have invaded Ukraine if Trump were the president. Just wouldn't have happened. Just think of all those people that would be alive today if we hadn't made the mistake of electing Mr. Demented. I mean, no, well, just think of it. I mean, those people would be alive today. Today, he put out his...
So that's a what if from Rudy. What if he did do that? Those people would be alive today. That's abstraction.
Afghanistan report. And he blamed Afghanistan on Trump. Although
See how he
Afghanistan
keeps
is
referencing what other people are doing all the time. That's all SE.
not necessarily a mistake because we left. It's a perfectly reasonable decision to leave. I think you could defend either decision, leave or stay. It's how we left. He
He's talking
handled
about
how
that.
we left, right?
So-
Trump didn't make the decision to
So,
take...
so like when he's talking there, he's talking about the how-to, and his importance is on the how-to. The how-to is linked to the process of things or the progression of movement. Okay, he really cares about the how-to.
Take out the troops.
That's his focus.
Before you take out the civilians. Now, I don't understand that. I will never understand that decision. There had to be somebody on his staff, even if he is demented, that would say to him, Mr. President, we usually do it the other way around. We leave the troops so the civilians can leave. And in a country that's dominated by terrorists, who these civilians have been fighting, you basically can get them all killed. I mean, only I don't even know if you're owned by China why you would do that, except Gates saying that he always makes the wrong decision about foreign policy.
So that's a TE reference. And look at him again. We got him.
It isn't it makes the wrong decision about foreign policy. In addition to being demented, before he was demented, he was profoundly stupid. And
Yo, he's prag,
he
man.
was put there because he's profoundly...
Yeah, he's pragmatic. Look at him like he don't give a shit, but he gonna bash you. Rudy is going to show his ass.
He can be
Okay,
manipulated.
Rudy Giuliani is
So-
gonna show his ass.
I don't know if I can take my hat off, a Trump hat off, and say, if I were running DeSantis' campaign,
He's biased. I'm gonna take the Trump hat off. You biased as shit. FI is all on with Trump.
I'd wait this out. I wouldn't. There are times in which it doesn't make sense to try to fight the inevitable. This is too big for a candidate to take on. What's going on with Trump? It's going to resolve itself. You got to have patience, and then that's the time for him to move forward if that's what he wants to do.
Pat, at the end of the day, I guess I would say, who do you think can bring in more new voters? Where can Trump go to find new votes? If we're to believe that the last election was legit, now Trump doesn't believe it was legit, but if we're all playing in the
that's a great
pool that
question.
the election was legit, we know that he got 7.
Came out of the gate.
All right, so off rip, I'm gonna say, I mean, going into the election for 2024, what do I think? I think the Republicans actually made a very bad move when they started going for women's rights. Usually Republicans win the swing elections, and they didn't. They actually had to. There was a lot of surprises during the swing election. So I think they're gonna be in for a rude awakening in 2024 as well. If they had not went after the women's rights, I think they would have easily won things. But people care about them rights, man, especially women, man. And every year, every 5 years, women are growing in power. They're starting to gain more money. Yeah, their influence is only going to continue to grow. I'm telling you that straight up. Like, men, if you go to a college or anything, or you're in a college environment, you look around, there's unanimously more women than there is men. I don't know what the fuck men are doing now. Most men are fucking bums.
When they first thought about him, very strong. He lost that lead very easily. As a political, I ran for president. I've been involved in 4 presidential campaigns. the front runner usually loses the nomination. Usually. That's more often than wins it. And if I were analyzing DeSantis, I would say his initial lead was ephemeral, not solid, because it wouldn't have been lost that quickly with the indictment and the whole thing. And right now, he's substantially behind. And there are other candidates as well. And they're like you were wondering, why does Vivek go after DeSantis and not Trump? Because he's got to get past DeSantis. DeSantis is in a position where the other Republicans will go after him before they will go after Trump. Because in order to vie with Trump, they have to become DeSantis. And secondly, there's no price you pay in going after DeSantis. He's not an icon of 40% of the people.
He's a good-looking guy. He's a very good voice.
Yeah, but nobody loves him yet.
Mayor.
Well, they don't know him. They just know him they don't know
raspy
this.
voice. You don't like the raspy voice? That's a sexy voice.
I was sent to Florida to help him win in 18.
You see how Rudy's choosing his role, even though he's talking a lot. That's more progression. But you see how he chose his role. I was sent. He ain't informing you. He telling
Because
you.
he was losing to Gillum. The guy that got him through was Trump. He got through on Trump's popularity.
Oh, you're talking Newsom right now or DeSantis?
I'm talking about DeSantis.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
And
talking
he was
Newsom.
not a particularly good candidate.
You were talking about.
I'm talking. I'm still
Okay.
on like Newsom.
I'm
Good
thinking of a
looking.
raspy voice.
By the way, here's the other
what you were
question.
doing
Here's
just
the other.
there.
And I'm thinking he's talking Newsom. Here's
Yeah.
the other question though. For the Democratic side, okay, go a complete different angle. So you as a Republican, who do you want running to give you the highest chance of winning? Do you want it to be Biden, or do you think Newsom stands a better chance?
No, I think Newsom.
Good-looking, tall, well-spoken, goes to French Laundry.
Frightening.
You know,
He's frightening.
You don't
I think Newsom would be. It's hard to see. This is so ridiculous analyzing who's easier to beat, because usually the person you think is easier to beat is the person who beats you. The examples like Reagan and Trump, and there are probably others that I can think of. Right now, I'd worry about Biden because it's so damn corrupt. And for some reason, I mean, he's unpopular. His unpopularity is up around 56, 57%. It should be about 65%. I mean, there's still kind of an affection for him that's scary. I mean, he is a terrible president, but let's put everything aside. DeSantis, Trump, everything aside. He probably is definitely the worst president of my lifetime. He may be the worst president ever. I'm trying to think of a president that hurt this country more than him in a short period of time. Got people killed because of his incompetence, like Afghanistan. Those people.
All right, so NTs really care about competency as a core need of theirs is competency and perfecting things. So that's gonna be a couple things that they really are going after. This is from Linda Barrens stuff. Each NFs, SJ, SP, they all go for different things as core needs.
The competent would have just been Trump who would have said no to taking out the troops before these. Almost any sane person would do that. How about leaving $45 billion worth of lethal arms behind at Bagram Air Base in a country dominated by terrorists who you know are going to use them to kill your own people, which they have done. That decision can only be made by a traitor or a madman. The guy has been a terrible president.
You see that? Like, Rudy's something else, man. Like I said earlier, Rudy's pragmatic as hell. Rudy gonna show his ass. Like, Rudy don't give a fuck. He's down with his ENTJ Donald Trump, and yeah, that's it. Rudy owns
There's
it.
something,
Mr. Giuliani.
no, but
Biden
there's something scary about him in being able. The American people don't register that. They watch him. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, he told the story about giving his uncle the Congressional Medal of Honor. His uncle didn't want it, and his father told him at his inauguration as vice president that his uncle had never gotten his medal. So he organized a big ceremony in the White House and gave him the medal. Now, here are the facts. His uncle never got the Congressional Medal of Honor. There's no evidence of it anywhere. His uncle was dead for 5 years before he was in the White House, and his father was dead for 7 years before he was in the White House. He repeated the story after being told that a week later.
So about 2 months ago,
But Rudy, you something else.
you remember about 2 months ago, out of nowhere, he was giving a speech and he announced that he had cancer, and then literally everybody was like, "He doesn't have cancer. That's just the dementia." It's like that's the level that we're at.
He should be
at
more
this point.
unpopular.
Yeah.
There's something going on. I mean, he should be whatever. He should have the highest disapproval ratings of any president.
I want to go to Tom. Tom, for you, we've been friends for 15 years. You grew up, you lived in Florida, Boca, right around here. You grew up, you've lived in Connecticut.
I'm almost ready to close him
$4 million
down.
deal with Fox, which is one of the reasons Fox hates me, because they only wanted to give him $20 million. So I know Roger was a very close friend.
But hear me out on what I'm saying. This is the point I'm making. So I think, first of all, man, I'm going to upset a lot of people. The chances of me ever interviewing DeSantis and him coming to our podcast every day goes lower and lower and lower. He'll come to you and you can ask the question that I say and then you can pose it to him.
I'm putting a good word for it. Yeah, I mean,
but let me tell you what my concern is. Here's my call out.
You see that? You see how he choosing his role, and he's pragmatic because he doesn't give a fuck.
The following. Who the hell is on his marketing team? Why the hell do you come out with this book in February knowing you can't launch till July and the book drops out of 100 ranking on Amazon 1 month later? What the hell are you thinking? If you know you can't run till July, you don't launch your book till June. What are you doing launching a book in February? Do it in late May. Do it in June. And then go on a ton of podcasts. Go on a ton of shows.
Patrick,
make sure your book is number one.
You're being too tough on him.
I'm not. I can be
You
tough
are.
on him.
No.
But wait a minute. Let me
He's a
be
first-time candidate. First-time candidates make mistakes.
You see, hey, Patrick ain't got time for that bullshit. ENTJ there.
But no, it's not about. I'm not calling him out. I didn't call him out. I'm calling his marketing team out. My conversation is to the marketing team. Yep. This is not a call out to him. I think he's a phenomenal candidate. I think he's crushed it. We're in Florida because of him. When we were in Dallas,
I think some way, somehow in the future, Patrick Bet-David is gonna be doing something with office. If he ends up running for governor or senator, but Patrick Bet-David, mark my words, in the future will be something.
and I'm getting ready to go through the process of selling the insurance company. My wife and I and the family sat down and we looked at moving back to Newport Beach. Newsom eliminated that decision like this. We were looking at moving to Greenwich because we're starting a media company and I'd much rather be in New York to compete with these guys. We're looking at Nashville. I lived in Nashville for a couple of years right outside of it. We're looking at Tampa. We're looking at Fort Lauderdale.
All right, we're done here. Rudy Giuliani is an INTJ. He's an INTJ 1W2 Enneagram. And what's important about this is that most INTJs. Did I say he's ENTJ? Well, he's INTJ 1W2. The thing that's important about this is that most stereotypical INTJs are 5W6, and the advice you would give a 1W2 INTJ is not the same advice you would give a 5W6. So let's go ahead and start breaking these stereotypes because most of the information that you get online is going to be for the 5W6 INTJs. Not going to be talking about the 4 INTJs, the 8s, the Arnold's an 8, Rudy's a 1, Doja Cat's a 4, Dario Nardi, Mark Zuckerberg, Tom and Shelley are 5W6s. So it's not going to be the same information that you will give them. Enneagram plays a huge role. So let's go ahead and say what INTJs are. They are responding. They're abstract, obviously. They're systematic. They're direct, pragmatic, and progression. Okay, and I'm going to read the little excerpt from the one. Type 1, the reformer. I'm going to say that Rudy Giuliani, man, I'm going to hit him. You're going to be mad, but I'm going to say you're unhealthy, man. Can be highly dogmatic, self-righteous, intolerant, and flexible. Begin dealing in absolutes. They alone know the truth. Everyone else is wrong. Make very severe judgments of others while rationalizing their own actions. Become obsessive about imperfections and the wrongdoing of others. Begin to act in contradictory ways, hypocritically doing the opposite of what they preach. Become condemnatory, punitive, and cruel in order to rid themselves of whatever they believe is disturbing them. Severe depression, nervous breakdown, and suicide attempts are likely. The key motivators of Type 1 wants to be right, to have integrity and balance, to strive higher and improve others, to be consistent with their ideas, to justify themselves, to be beyond criticism so as to not be condemned by anyone. Okay, that's what Rudy Giuliani is. I say he's unhealthy, but yeah. Very important to figure out that Enneagram, man. I think it's actually more important than type. But we are still doing free typing sessions by us. All you have to do is join our Facebook group or our Discord and message our moderator, Cody, with your availability, and we will get to that. We're trying to get out different material. I think me and Thomas are working on something for the INTJs that will probably be released this weekend or next weekend, where we're going to be going through the Enneagram and breaking down the INTJs that are ones. INTJs, I don't think we're going to find any INTJs that are twos. I think it's highly unlikely, but there is a possibility for anything. Threes, obviously, INTJs could be threes. There's achievers. You got the fours like Doja Cat and people like that. Then you got your fives, which is the standard INTJ. Haven't seen a 6 yet, but haven't seen a 7 either. But I have seen an 8, and that's gonna be Arnold and 50 Cent. So we'll be going over that in a comprehensive video for the INTJs. We're gonna try to do that with each type. As we say, we're the first ones to start linking all this together. So comment below what you think. And I think the next celebrity we might do is Keanu Reeves, whatever. I can't say his name right. I told somebody I would do him for him in the comments, so I'm gonna go ahead and do him. But this is Mongolian Mindset, and we are out. You guys have a wonderful day.